Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Kain, and in today's video I'll be going over all the Vladimir combos and the implications that come with them. Vladimir isn't necessarily a hard mechanical champion. In fact, he's rather a straightforward champion. But that only means that we need to master his combos even more, as we literally have no excuse now to suck at his combos. Additionally, Vladimir's mechanical difficulty doesn't really lie in the combos, but in being creative with his abilities and his combos, to make the champion actually more versatile than he is. Now with that being said, let's get started. First, we'll take a look at what we can use our Q for. Obviously, we'll use our Q to poke our enemies and heal ourselves. Now, poking someone with Q is easier said than done. Think of playing versus a long-range champion like Syndra. In matchups like this, we can use some tricks to hit people with our Q though. First, we should look to Q enemies when they're going to last hit one of our minions. Alright, so here I'm going to show you guys a perfect example of what I mean when you need to pressure your enemies basically when they're going for minions. So this is a beautiful example. So we're going to see here, look, these red minions here, Syndra tried to farm it, right? And she did with her Q. And now look what I can do. We can get a few free Q off of her. Just because she went for a minion. That's how you pressure your opponents. Whenever they want to walk up to your minions and last hit them, you have a free angle to Q her, even though she has more range than you. And that's simply because when she wants to last hit a minion, she has to stand still. While she's standing still, you have time to catch up to her, and now you get a free Q. Second, we should use our red Q movement speed to gap close the distance between us and our opponent to make sure that our Q hits. Okay, so here we have a beautiful example of what it looks like to use your red Q movement speed to get a free empowered Q onto your opponent basically. So let's go take a look. So look here how I can only get the red Q off onto Syndra because of my empowered movement speed. The Syndra in this case wasn't paying too much attention to my red Q timing I guess, or maybe she forgot about the extra movement speed I get. Now keep in mind this was I believe a 350 LP master Syndra, and this is how you can consistently poke enemies like this just with a simple strategy of just basically using the extra movement speed of your red Q to make sure that you can also hit your opponents. Third, we can bait the enemy into thinking that we're about to use our Q on a minion, but instead we last hit the minion with an auto attack, and then we still have our Q to hit our opponent. Alright, so now I'm going to show you what it looks like to make your opponent think that you're going to Q a minion, but then actually last hitting it with auto attacks and using your Q on your opponent. So take a look at this trait here. So the Syndra here, again 350 LP Master Syndra, walks up because she's probably like sure that I'm gonna Q this minion. Why? Many Vladimirs do. Many Vladimir players use their Q to farm, but then you wouldn't have your Q anymore to trade. So we just simply auto attack the minion, and now we still have Q. And boom, there we go, we just win the trade. Which is so good here, because keep in mind guys, getting your Q, like using your Q on an opponent, is in theory simple, but once you play versus people like this Syndra, you might think, isn't it a lot more difficult? Well, basically if you just use these tricks like you can see, it's not that much more difficult. It's just you have to know about these tricks and you have to be able to consistently use them. Fourth, we can wiggle back and forth to make the enemy overstep. Alright, so this is actually one of my favorite tricks. So look what Lux has done here. She has binded me, and my red Q is about to come up, so I want to start chasing Lux the moment this bind is over, right? Because my red Q is coming up, it's going to give me a lot of healing and I will deal a lot of damage to Lux. See what's going to happen here. So look. I walk up and you see how Lux is walking away? So I'm not in range right now. I cannot go in range of Lux. So what do I start doing here? I start turning my character model the other way around with the intention of, if Lux also follows that pattern, if she thinks, okay, Vladimir's turning around again, so I can walk up again, I'm instantly going to turn back. And I have this idea in my mind, and the Lux doesn't. So my reaction time will be quicker than her reaction time, because I'm expecting to do this, she's not expecting me to do this. Obviously, a very good player might also know that I'm going to do this. But even in high elo, this really works really well. So look what I'm going to do here. So look, I walk back, Lux is going to walk up here again. Why? She saw my character model walk away. So now she thinks I can walk up again. But look, I'm already turned again. And by the time she can react, I already have a red Q here. Right? And that's this concept. This works in low elo, it works in high elo, and it's one of my most favorite tricks in League of Legends and specifically on Vladimir. All we do is we basically abuse the fact that we can have quicker reaction time than our opponents to close the gap between us and our opponents by making sure we have an intention in our mind. We're planning on doing something, they don't know that, so their reaction time is going to be slower than our reaction time. That's all there is to it. Okay, so for the next concept, I basically want to go back to this clip here, a clip that we already looked at, and we're going to look at it from a different perspective, or basically we're going to add something to it. So take a look here. If you remember correctly, why will we be able to Q the Syndra here? Well, it's because of the minion. You can see the minion here. This is the one she wants to farm. It's very low, so we said, hey, we need to pressure our opponent when they want to last hit. That's a good way for us to do a Q, right? But there's a difference between queuing somebody and like knowing how to, like when to queue somebody, basically like when you're pressuring them when they want to go for minions. But you can also think about how will I queue them, like when will I actually do it? So here, look, we're already in the position to queue her. Right now I can queue her, but look, I wait until she hits me with her spell, and now I'm going to queue her. The reason for that is, I know that even if I walk up there, Syndra can cast her Q while she's walking. So I know I'm gonna take damage. So I might as well wait until she hits me with the spell, and then do the Q, so that the damage that she did to me, I already heal part of it back. And that way I basically guarantee that I win this trade here. Right. So that's all there is to it. Okay guys, so this is another very useful concept that actually a lot of people forget about when they play Vladimir. So right now, if you pay attention, I have one Q stack. My bar here is white, so that means I have one Q stack. What does that imply? That implies if I Q Lee Sin right now, then my next, while I do that Q, I get off the Q, then my next red empowered Q is about to come up, right? So what is Lee Sin doing here? A little bit of context. I'm playing versus Lux. Lee Sin ganked me. Now, I could let this Lee Sin just go and say, okay, Lee Sin, it's fine. You ganked me, didn't work out. I will let you get back to farming. I will let you get back to ganking, whatever. I don't want to do that. Lee Sin is an early game jungler. I want to keep him here as long as possible, obviously without him getting anything. I don't want to die here. I want to just keep him busy so he can't really do anything, because his champion is on a timer. He needs to get something done in the early stages of the game. Now, I know I can fight Lee Sin here. Why? Because I have one Q stack. If I Q him right now, my red Q is about to come up. So let's take a look at what happens here. So look. So I Q Lee Sin, and now my empowered Q is already about to come up. So if you know you're about to take an extended trade with somebody, because there's a high risk that Lee Sin re-engages here onto me, if you know that you're about to take a long extended trade with somebody, make sure that you're sitting on one Q stack, because a long trade typically means you're going to get two Qs off, and then you will be able to get a red empowered Q off. So here we already get one Q off. Lee Sin engages. I try to dodge, but he does hit me, but it doesn't matter so much, because you're going to see, look, my next Q is a red Q. So what happens here? Look, I get a full red Q. The only thing I could have done better here is potentially wait until Lee Sin's shield is over, but I didn't want to wait too long in case Lux wanted to hit me with abilities and maybe kill me. So I wanted to have the instant healing, so I red Q through his shield. But you see how low Lee Sin is actually going to be here. He's going to keep on chasing me. He cannot kill me. Why? We got the red Q healing, and we did a lot of damage to him. So now Lee Sin here is really, really low. He can't just randomly move to bot lane and gank him now. He's too low to do that. And if my jungler wants, he can potentially invade Lee Sin. So I kept him busy, but what was the underlying concept here? The underlying concept was, if you're planning on taking an extended trade, make sure that you start a trade on one Q stack, and then you're going to be able to get a red empowered Q off on your next Q. And last but not least, something about your Q healing. So you can use Q on minions to heal between trades, but it's even better to use your empowered Q on jungle camps like the Raptor camp to get extra healing. Now let's take a look at our W. Vladimir's W is his only defensive tool, and it has a very high cooldown timer. So whenever you're planning on using it, you need to assess the map to make sure you're not getting ganked by someone on the enemy team. As a defensive tool, we can use our W for dodging crucial enemy abilities, such as Ari Charms, Twisted Fate's Gold Card, etc. Now, when you're using your W to dodge an enemy's crucial ability, you will lose HP as your W costs you HP. But keep in mind, if you W underneath an enemy champion or minions or jungle camps or both, you'll heal back a lot of HP. Alright, so now we're going to look at our W healing, or the way you basically have to use it. So whenever you basically try to use your W, it's going to cost you quite a lot of HP. So what you want to do, you want to get the HP cost, you want to heal it back. Now, a lot of people don't actually know this, like your W does heal you a lot. Especially like it heals you when you're underneath a target, like an enemy, a jungle camp, or minions. And a nice application of that is here, this is me, I'm the Vladimir, this is my enemy, the Tahm Kench, and this is my jungler Lee Sin. Now Lee Sin is ganking me, and this is still a very difficult kill on the Tahm Kench. So look what happens here, I'm about to get very, very low. I use my ultimate, I heal up, but I'm still quite low. So look what I do, I W here, and I go on the wave here, and look how much I heal from the wave actually. I heal a significant amount. And now I can move back here to the Tahm Kench, use my red Q, and there we go. Right, here we're gonna see it, the red Q, and ultimately we're going to take this kill here. Right? But that's a nice showcase of how you can use your W. You can use it to dodge crucial abilities, or if they already did their crucial abilities, you can use your W on the wave for sustain. Right? In an ideal situation, you dodge and a crucial ability of an opponent, and in the meantime you like W underneath an entire minion wave with the enemy, but that's not always possible. So it's just whenever like there is an option for you to heal with your pool, or whenever there's a way to sustain for you with your pool, try and do it. Try to negate the HP cost of your pool by going underneath targets, jungle camps, monsters, champions, etc. Additionally, you can also use your W just for wave clear. For example, when you're not under any threat of getting ganked, or when you need to push the wave really quickly before you recall. Now believe it or not, but your W has even more use cases. W can be used for movement speed when we're looking to all-in someone. On top of that, not only can it be used for movement speed, but also to slow enemies. Alright, so for the next concept we're basically going to talk about how useful Vladimir's W slow is. Because if you activate W, you yourself become a lot faster, but you do slow enemies that are on top of you basically. And this could be useful in many use cases actually, but let's take a look at this one here. So look, I'm chasing the Kai'Sa here, and okay, they engage onto me, so I pull, but the main reason is, look, Kai'Sa can literally not move. She is turbo slowed, she literally cannot escape. And now here you might say, well, it doesn't really matter because you just one-tap her anyway, but there are many use cases here. Like first of all, here she couldn't get away because of the slow, but there are also use cases where you can't kill your opponent, but where you basically just like ghost and you activate your pull onto an opponent, so maybe your Amumu jungle can catch up and hit his Q onto the opponent, right? So keep in mind that your W, and I use this so much more than you might think, it's actually a peel item as well. It's like a peel tool. You can slow enemies to make sure that your opponent, like your teammates, can get onto them, right? So you're basically like more of a support in that way, right? And Vladimir doesn't have too many like interactions like that where he can be of use to his team in another way than damage. So this is a very important one, so keep it in mind. And obviously your W can be used for turret diving, but it's often better to tank a turret shot and not use your W so that you're still safe from any threat. And last but not least, you can slow down your empowered Q drainage while using W. Your E is actually pretty simple, but I'm quickly going to go over it. So if you press E, you lose HP. So you need to make sure, especially in the early game, you can't really afford to lose HP. So you need to make sure that if you lose HP, you get a lot of value out of it. There's two ways to get a lot of value out of your E. Either one, for wave management, for wave clear, or two, for a very good trade. What is a very good trade? If you charge your E at your opponent and you lose HP, and now they also get to damage you, you're never going to win the trade. So a good trade would be, like when you use your E, would be when your opponent doesn't really have cooldowns. You play versus an Ahri, she doesn't have her E, she doesn't have her Q, she doesn't have her W. Now you can obviously walk up for a free trade, and she will not be able to win the trade with her auto attacks versus your E damage. Then it would be good to do E. Another reason why it would be good to do E is wave clear. Many mages like Orianna, Syndra will typically look to push the wave early on onto you. And that's annoying for you. But what you can do is you can look to temporarily freeze the wave or slow their push down to keep them as long as possible on your side of the lane. You can do that by trimming their wave with your E. basically trying to hit the entire wave with a full charged E. That way it would be worth to lose some HP because you did hit the entire wave, you did trim the wave, and that will make it a lot easier for you to hold the wave here in this position, which is a good position for you and a weird position for the enemy team because they can easily get ganked by your jungler. Right? So then another thing is with your E, you can slow down your Q drainage. So let me show you. Look, I can slow this down. And that's the same for your W. I didn't show you guys. I did mention it, but I'm going to show you guys now as well. So look, also with my pool, I can slow this bar down. Right. So both with my pool and both with my E, I can slow down the Q drainage. Now, for me, the most fun use case for E is trying to kill people with it. So typically, if your opponent is low, you could charge E and randomly flash onto them and then surprise them. And this works really well, I would say, up until like Diamond or Master. But once you start getting to the higher elos, it won't work as good. Because what's going to happen is you do this and you flash, they're just going to follow up with a flash. So it's not really going to work. They're going to predict it easily. So you kind of have to bait their flashes. Whenever they're overextended, then you do this and you act like you're going to flash by just doing E and walking up to them. You act like you're going to flash. And that might actually bait out their flashes. Now, if they're really good, they don't really have to anticipate the fact that you're going to flash. They can just react to it. Right? So if you do this, they might not flash. They will wait until you flash and then they flash. Some people just rely that much on their mechanics and they can because they're good at it. So then I have another trick for you guys. You can play around with your E. You can wiggle back and forth. So you act like you're going to walk up. You walk back like you're going to stop and you walk up again. So here I walk up, I walk back, and then I flash anyway onto them. So basically what I do is this. Let's assume that I have E right now. I walk up with my E. They think I'm going to flash or they think I'm going to go onto them. I walk back. I show them that I have no intention. So they walk up again. And then I flash and I hit them with my E. Right? They are surprised. It's basically the same concept that I mentioned before. But so look, this is what it looks like. I'm going to show you guys one more time. So you act like you want to walk up, and boom. Right? So once more, you act like you walk up, you go back, and you flash. Right? They don't expect it. They see you walk up, they walk back, they see you walk back again, and they think, oh, we're safe. He's not going to flash. They walk up, and boom. You surprise them with a flash. So as simple as this. Right? And it's a really fun trick. I use it a lot. You can surprise people a lot with it, but it's mainly for high elo and lower elos. People don't really react that well. And then you can just get away with just the standard E into flash. And last but not least, let's take a look at Vladimir's ultimate before we move on to the combined combos. Vladimir's ult is mainly used for dealing great AoE damage when all-inning the enemy team at big team fights or to kill your lane opponent. However, oftentimes, especially in higher elos, you might find yourself having trouble with killing your lane opponent. And then what I like to do is simply to use your ult to get a favorable trait that gives me the dominant position in the lane, so that I can mainly prevent my opponent from impacting the game. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys the perfect example of what it means to ult your way to lane dominance. So here I was playing Vladimir versus LeBlanc. I struggled versus the LeBlanc. I really couldn't kill her. She was playing way too safe. But then I remembered I'm playing Vladimir. I'm a scaling champion versus LeBlanc, an early to mid game champion. I outscale her towards the late game. So as long as she doesn't really impact the map, as long as she doesn't really kill my top lane or my bot lane or my jungler, I'm fine. So all I have to do is keep her in lane, and preferably I control the lane. Preferably I get to farm, I get to take place, and she doesn't. So here I said, even though I can't kill her, I'm just going to preemptively ult her. I'm just going to ult her and do a lot of damage to her so that I win the trade and I get prio over the lane in the next couple of minutes here. And let's see what that means. So here, LeBlanc is going to jump onto me. I'm going to do this in slow motion here so you guys see it clearly. So LeBlanc jumps onto me. I'm going to follow up here with ultimate. Like I'm going to do ult, release E and Q. And now look who's going to win this trade. Look at her HP here. She's going to be really, really low. We procced her passive. She's going to be really, really low. And look how healthy we are. So this amount of HP versus this amount of HP. We are obviously winning the trade right now. We are winning the lane right now. And that's all it means to really ult your way to lane dominance. If you can't kill her, just keep her low. And oftentimes you'll find yourself getting a kill on your opponent, which is kind of funny because you basically ulted them because you couldn't kill them in the first place. But when people get low, they tend to overstay in the lane, and then you can kill them anyway afterwards. But that's not really, that's fun, but that's not really the initial idea here. The initial idea is ult LeBlanc, get her low, so we win the trade and we get lane prio right now. And that's how you win the game. You can also use your ultimate for wave clear when you quickly need to shove in a wave, especially during the early lane phase, but after the recent Vladimir buffs, we now have more wave clear with our W, so there's less use cases for wave clear with our ultimate. And lastly, your ultimate is a very powerful tool for surviving or even turning ganks. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys how you could use your ult to survive ganks as well. A lot of people don't really think about it this way, but it's super useful. So let me show you. So here I'm getting ganked by Master D. Now notice I'm not just ulting him instantly, he's also super fat, he does a lot of damage. But look, I wait until Zoe is getting close to Master D, and then when they're close enough, now I'm going to ult. Why? You get obviously more healing when you hit 2 people than 1 person. So, look. As he goes on to me, he has to back out, Zoe goes on to me, and I'm going to live here, simply because of my ultimate healing. And now I do a red Q, I decide to annoy them a little bit, right? Here I get my ultimate healing, and now we live, basically, right? So look how I can, like, easily survive this. Wasn't even that close. I could easily survive this by making sure that I have future guaranteed insane healing. By ulting when they're both low and I still don't need my ult, I know I'm about to get healing in the future, right? When my ult pops. And it's going to be a lot because I hit both of them. So I can basically survive easily. I can maybe poke them a little bit and all of that. So it's a really good tool basically to survive ganks using your ultimate like that. Alright, let's move on to the non-ultimate ability combos. First up, the standard QEW combo. Okay, so I'm going to start with the QEW combo. Now, why will I start with this combo? Because it's your main bread and butter combo, especially during the laning phase or in any 1v1 situation. Because typically what you want to do, you want to deal damage to your opponent, right? Your E is very good at that, while being untargetable yourself, and therefore you need your W. So what are you typically going to do to trade with your opponent? EW, right? I deal damage, he can't damage me. The only thing that you can add to that is your Q, because we're talking about non-ultimate abilities right now, so we're just talking about the normal abilities. The only thing you can add to that is the Q, which would be Q, EW. Now, the reason why I do QEW and not EWQ, so for example, I could also do this, EQW, all of that, but I'm not choosing to do that, and there's a reason for that. The reason why is, while you go in pull, you're untargetable, but your abilities could also come back on cooldown again. For example, if I do a Q right now, well, 3-second cooldown, I am vulnerable, right? If I do Q and I go in pull, look, the cooldown is already getting lower. So now I only have to wait 2 seconds anymore and I can Q again. That's why it's super important that if you do this combo, especially in a 1v1 situation, that you do Q before EW. Right? Now, it might be a bit greedy. Sometimes you can't get away with this. For example, let's say you trade with an Ahri. Right? This is an Ahri and she wants to charm. And you want to get off your Q right now, but the moment you want to Q, she hits charm. So you're instantly going to have to do this. And then Q afterwards. So you're only going to get off 1 Q. Whereas if you're lucky and maybe you dodge the charm, or she misses the charm, or she gives you more time to Q before she can charm, then you can do Q, EW, and then when you're out of pool, you can Q again. But that's the main combo. Also keep in mind that EW really slows enemies, right? Your W slows them a lot, your E will slow them a lot when it pops, and you gain movement speed, so it's super useful to stick onto enemies. When they're running away, they basically can't escape. And that means you can kill them afterwards because they can't run away, or maybe your teammates can catch up to you because you're slowing the opponent basically. Now another combo that we can do is actually the QW combo, and this is, I would say, quite niche. Not a lot of people use it, and it's basically to cancel the Q animation. So look, if I Q, you see this entire animation, right? It takes time to do the Q. Now if you do QW, you don't see the Q animation, right? So you cancel your own animation, which means you can basically instantly like get onto your opponent, you can pull your untargetable, but it's quite niche. Like I said, typically you don't want to do that. Typically you want to do QEW, right? And that doesn't work, right? You can't cancel your Q animation then. So QEW doesn't work if you do it this fast, right? So what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to Q and then EW, and yes, your Q animation will go off, but that's the main combo that you do. That's why QW, this is not really used often. Now, when is it used? Well, obviously when you're when you're super low and in a very dangerous situation, and you're like, this guy's super low, you're super low, and you just basically want to kill each other, but it's like super close, you can easily die, so you don't really dare to walk up, so you just do QW and you get out, for example. Something like that. Or typically also when you're turret diving. When you're turret diving, especially in the early game, and I want to hit this guy, right? He's like half HP and I want to get him lower so that I can eventually turret dive him. I might take a like do this and not take a turret shot. Now I poked him, not take a turret shot. Now typically it's not worth to pull for a normal Q. Typically it has to be a red Q, right? So if you do a red Q, then typically you could do this. So this, right? This is what it looks like. Now again, in the very early stages of the game, this is a good combo when you want to turret dive. But again, it's very niche. There's not going to be many games where you're going to turret dive level 3, for example, right? But that's when it's pretty good to do the QW combo, because then at level 3, it's not worth to take a turret shot. It's going to cost you so much HP. But once you're like level 6, level 7, it's a lot better to just do this, tank the turret shot, and keep your W. Because now if you get ganked, you still have your W. Or now your opponent can't all-in you because you still have W. You're just a lot safer with it, right? So typically you only want to use W when you know you can't get ganked. And yeah, when it's going to take, like when you're going to block a lot of damage with it. Like I said, level 3 turrets are going to hit, so you might as well pull. But later on in the game, you typically don't want to do this. So it's very niche. It's a very quick combo in very dire situations, very dangerous situations, or an early game when you want to turret dive, for example. Alright, and then for the last non-ultimate combo, it would be EQ, right? Now, you can't really do anything wrong with this. It's also very straightforward, this combo. Like, it's just the main damage combo without using your W. So it's like very easy. Keep in mind that when you do the EQ combo, you could E and then cancel your E with your Q. So basically when you charge your E and you Q while charging it, your E will automatically cancel, but it feels really bad, right? It feels super clunky. So instead of, you don't see it on camera, like this is like just automatic. I cancel the E with my Q. What you should do is charge E, release it manually, and then do Q. It's a lot smoother, it feels a lot less clunky, right? You're gonna notice this. I know for a fact that every Vladimir main knows this, but definitely for the new Vladimir players here, very, very important. Release your E manually and then Q, right? So you manually do it and then you Q, right? So it's just really simple. It's a very simple trick, but it looks super smooth, right? And that's why we do it. It's just a lot smoother. It's not that clunky. Other than that, there's not too many things you need to know about EQ combo. Obviously, you can flash, right, like this. So you can charge E, you flash, and then you Q, right? Again, you flash, you release E manually, and then you do the Q. So again, something like this, right? That's a nice surprise combo, but we already talked about this when we talked about the E, where many people will suspect this combo. So then you're going to have to do this and bait their flash. Or if they don't do this, you're going to have to act like this and then do EQ. Right? But we already talked about that. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the ultimate combos. And the ultimate combos are very interesting. They're obviously what you're aiming for as Vladimir. You want to join team fights, you want to get pentakills. You're going to need your ultimate to do that. Now, the first ultimate combo, I'm going to show it very slowly, is you basically do, like, there's multiple things, but you can do R, Q, and then you go into EW. This one is not used that much, but I'm going to show you why. First of all, you do R. Why? All the damage you do after your R increases, right? So that's your ultimate, right? I'm going to read it here. Vladimir creates a plague, causing its victims to take 10% increased damage from all sources. So whenever you do an ultimate combo, your ultimate should always be first and then your other abilities. Simple as that. So then your other abilities, what is the other combo that we learned? The non-ultimate ability combo is Q, EW. So if your R needs to be first, it's very simple. We literally just do R, Q, EW. Right? There's only one problem with this. Imagine that you go to an opponent and do this. So you R, Q, EW. You might think, well, that's quite smooth. It's quite fast. But look how much time they have. I need to walk to them, press RQ. All this time while I'm pressing RQ, they can actually just like kill me, CC me, exhaust me. So all those things. That's why the Q is maybe not so good. Maybe you just want to do REW. And then you have a lot more time, or they have a lot less time to kill you, right? The Q might be too much time that you stand still or that you're not in pool. And that's all time they can damage you, CC you, exhaust you, things like that. Now, very important to note with this combo is that you can do the Q, so RQEW, you can do it in 1v1 situations. If you're playing in the mid lane or you're playing in the side lane, top or bot, you're side laning against somebody. In the 1v1, it's pretty good because all the extra damage you get off in the 1v1 is quite important. And typically, if you only play versus one person, they might, like, there's not going to be that much CC that can CC you or kill you while you're doing this RQ, right? So you should be fine then with doing the RQEW combo. You should be completely fine in the 1v1 situation in most situations, right? Now, however, let's say you're in a team fight, then it might be pretty weird to do this. Because if you're in a team fight, let me show you. If you're in a team fight, you typically want to do this. You want to do R on everybody and hit your EW. That's the main thing. The only damage you could add to that is a Q. Before you do, so you could do R, Q on one person because it's a single target spell, and then do EW, right? And then you might think, okay, the risk that I'm standing still while hitting this Q on this one target, while I'm doing this, they can just kill me or CC me or exhaust me. So there's a lot of risk involved. And then is it worth the risk? Is it worth hitting one person with one Q and then maybe dying and not hitting all of this? It's just not worth it. So basically, the best combo here for team fights is always REW. It's super quick, you can hit everybody, you're untargetable, and they have very little time to exhaust or kill or CC you before you do this. Like before you go into pool, there's almost no time. And you can obviously do this with Ghost, like you can come from here, you REW, you proc phase rush and you're out, for example, right? There's a lot you can do. You can also combine this with Flash. So if you do Flash slowly, it looks like this. You Flash, you REW, right? You can also do it fast, and you can like even Ghost Flash. So for example, you Ghost Flash REW, and there we go. So there's almost no reaction time from this, especially if you do it from over a wall. If you Ghost and then Flash over this wall into REW, there's almost no time. But imagine that you do this. Imagine, so I'm quickly going to teleport myself here. So imagine that you Ghost, you Flash, you R, and now you stand still for a Q, and then you EW. Like, the entire surprise effect is gone. They can just exhaust you or something like that, and then you do 0 damage, right? So it's super, super important that you don't do the Q before, like in the team fights, right? You always just do REW. And the Q is just in 1v1 situations. In the 1v1 situation, like this is one target, we can RQEW, right? That's fine. But that's it about that combo. But keep it in mind, this is the most important combo on Vladimir, in my opinion, the Flash REW combo. It's the most important one. It's for team fights. It's to get pentakills. It's to win the game. Alright, so the following combo will be this combo. So we're going to charge E, do ultimate, release E, and then you can follow up with Q, and if you want to, W. So fast, that would look something like this. So we charge E fully, and then Q, and then perhaps W if you really want to. Right? Now, when would you use this combo? This combo is almost never done without a flash. And the reason for that is, like, people typically will, like, if you start doing this and they know you have ult and they're like in kill range, because that's when you would do this combo typically. Like, you would do this when you think you can kill enemies. They would typically just dash out of it or flash out of it. And you can only basically use this in situations where they have no dash, they have no flash. But then typically they wouldn't overextend like this, where you can just hit them with your E and ult. They typically would keep more distance, right? So maybe you can Ghost or Flash that to close the distance. So for example, you could do Ghost. You could charge E, ult, and then Q, and then perhaps W to slow them and keep up with them, right? That's very useful. Now, typically, like I said, it's done with Flash. That would look something like this. So we charge E, we Flash, and we RQ. And then again, you can perhaps follow up with W if you want to. But the main gist of it is we E, we Flash, release R, and then release E, and then Q, right? That's the main combo. This is typically just to blow up somebody in lane, right? This guy is low HP. I'm just acting to farm. I'm acting to trim the wave, and then Flash, boom, RQ, and yeah, we one-tap him, right? Again, same principle. While you do this, people may exhaust you. They might kill you. They might CC you. whatever, right? Or it's also very telegraphed, like especially when you do this in higher elos, doing this again, they know you're going to do this. So it's not going to work. So you're going to have to, again, play with them. You're going to have to do this and then do this, right? So again, you're going to have to act like you walk up. They will walk back. You walk back. They walk up again and you flash onto them, right? That's something a lot better. Right? This is a lot better of a combo. So it's basically the same combo, but we just wiggle and we act like we're not going onto them, right? This combo is therefore, right, it's for in lane to kill off people, to surprise them with flash typically. But it's also very good for over walls. So for example, let me put a ward here. Let me place a dummy here, or maybe 2 dummies or 3 dummies, doesn't really matter. But if they, especially if they don't have vision on you, you can basically just E and then flash and you have like instantaneous damage. If they don't have vision onto you here, who's gonna react like you charge and you flash, and only now the damage instantly goes off. So nobody can react to you, right? So it's like, and then you can pull, for example. So the damage instantly goes off. Now, does that mean that you can't do this combo? Right, well, I didn't do my E here for some reason. You see? So R-E-W. You could also do this combo, right? It's also fine. But with this one, you have instantaneous damage. Like, the damage instantaneously procs. Right? So that's the difference. So it's really good to proc instantaneously your damage, but you can only do it like when people don't expect you to. Otherwise, while you're charging your E, they will look to kill you, to CC you, to exhaust you, things like that. And then lastly, or like the last combo here that we have, is basically going to be this very niche one. It's very simply going to be R into Q. That's all it is. So if you do it fast, it's literally just RQ, right? Nothing special to it. And now you might ask, like, when would this ever be possible? Like, why would you use the RQ combo? It's like only using your ult to amplify your Q damage. Why would you do that? Well, it's typically an execute. It's like very niche situation. Like, let's say your E is on cooldown, right? Your opponent is here. He's super low and he's about to kill the last minion to shove it in under your turret. And then he's going to walk away and recall all of that. And you don't have your E. So you can't like E flash onto him with Q or something. You just can't. So then in that case, when your E is on cooldown, they are gonna be here for like just a couple of seconds more maybe. Like not enough for your E to come on cooldown. You might have to flash R, Q. And that might kill him. And then they need to be in a kill range where your Q doesn't kill them, but your empowered Q with your ultimate damage on top of it would kill them. Right? And then super fast would be like something like that. Right? So it's very, very niche. But you can also combine it with your pull. So you can cancel your Q animation. So you could do ult QW, right? So because remember, right? We can cancel our Q animation with our W. So you could also like flash R, Q, W. And then if you do the Q fast and then W fast, then we can cancel the animation. So R, Q, W, right? So this is something that could finish off people as well if you don't have your E, for example. But it's super niche. Typically, we don't do it a lot. But let's say I typically use this also when I'm in a matchup where I just took like a pretty bad trade, or like my opponent is a lot healthier than me and I kind of want to heal up again and I want to get like the prio over the lane. But I just use my E, I use my pull maybe, but I definitely use my E, and now they're healthier than me and I lost a trade and I don't have E. Then sometimes I just RQ and walk away just to like damage them and heal from my Q and heal from my ultimate. And now I might be in HP favor again. I might be the champion with the most HP in the lane again, and I might dominate the lane now, right? So in that situation, I would also use it. But other than that, I don't really use it. Now, something else. The last thing I want to mention here, with your ultimate, you can also proc your face rush. So, what does face rush say? Hit an enemy champion with 3 spells or attacks in rapid succession to gain a powerful haste. A lot of people think that those spells need to be attack or like damaging spells. The first part of your ult doesn't do any damage, yet you can proc face rush with it. Now you might ask, why would I ever want to proc face rush with my ult? Well, for example, when you're about to get ganked, or when you're getting ganked, or your opponent is running you down, you want to escape. While you're escaping, while you're walking away, people are chunking you, they are dealing damage to you. You want to make sure that by the time you get to your turret, you don't just simply die. So you might ult right now so that while they're attacking you, while you get out of your turret and now they might kill you, your healing comes back to you and now you have enough HP to walk away. So ulting quickly, like early in the fight, might be useful to make sure that you don't die and you get to your turret safely. So in those cases, then your ultimate could also be used to proc your phase rush and run away even faster. So you ult, and then for example you EQ, and you walk away. But you don't have to ult EQ to walk away. You just need to do 3 spells. So you could just do your ult, E auto attack, ult EW, doesn't really matter. There's all different kind of combos. You can do it without your ultimate, but I'm just saying, if you find yourself in a situation where you need to walk away, and you want to be very quickly away, and for example you don't have E and W, then the best way for you to proc it might be ult, auto attack Q, and walk away, for example. Right? So it is a niche thing, but it does happen more often than you might think. I would say that I use this whenever I go phase rush. I would say I use this at least every game that I go phase rush, right? So it's it's quite interesting actually. But that's going to be the last thing here I wanted to say. With that being said, the video has come to an end. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.